Hey everybody, and welcome to a Moo episode of Indie Film Cafe. I'm your old pal, the Moo Cow, aka Paul A. Presenza, and as usual, I'm joined by
Jonathan A. Moody, your co-host.
Yay, and then together we are both joined by
Jackey Hall.
Jackey Hall.
Yay!
Jackey, we haven't had you since last year. I think, well, it happened in January of last year that we
About damn
shot it
time.
when we were down in when I was down in uh Bakersfield. But
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 get it?
we
But
put it out at the same time. This will be out in June. June 9th, I think it is. So a couple days before your birthday.
Yay!
So this will
That's
be out.
crazy. I can't
Yeah.
believe it's been that long.
Yeah. So we're
And
really
for
happy.
once, we're actually doing a movie that's not about butts and farts and asses and stuff. This time we are doing a movie called Ticked Off Trannies with Knives. Now, Moody should remember I've been wanting to do this for a bit, so it's not like this one came out of nowhere. Bit of a controversy, but it's kind of I think it's a pretty darn good film. So it does have some issues, but I guess once we watch the movie, we'll get into it. Have you heard of it before, Jackie?
No, I have not. I have no. Nope. Don't hear
Okay.
of half of the movies that you guys throw my way. That's why I kind of like
You've
it.
never heard of Rectuma?
No,
You've
never heard.
never heard of Sex Squatch?
No.
You never heard of what's the other one? The one, the other butt one we did.
Butt boy.
Well, we did
But
Butt
boy,
Boy. I never heard of that one. You never heard of that one, I'm sure. What's the other one? There was another one. There was another
We
uh
save all the butt movies for Jackie.
it was from the group who did that movie, and I can't even say the name because it's so messed up. The guys who did Retard Dead,
Oh yeah. I
that
forget
God,
which
group.
one.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here with Jackie to do ticked off trannies with knives.
There we go.
I'm excited.
Should be fun.
All right.
All right, then I guess we'll come back after we have some
Moody
music.
music.
All right, guys, so we are back. All right, so I want to hear what did you guys think about Ticked Off Trannies with Knives?
Uh, Jackie, you go first.
I actually thought it was cute. Um, some of the like effect stuff I didn't like. Like with the what was it? The chapters thing. I didn't really like that. I didn't it like I felt like the movie, like the chapters that they were going to, like weren't really going into different chapters of the
The
story.
whole Grindhouse presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't like the grindhouse thing, like with the stopping and the reels being off and everything. Like, I mean, I get it, but I agree. I was not a fan. I never was a fan of fake grindhouse stuff, like even the movie Grindhouse with Rob Rodriguez
Even
and
Chris
him.
Seaver's done it though.
Chris Seaver's done it. Everybody's done it, but I'm
Yeah.
just not a big, it's not but I
It
didn't like grindhouse movies, period.
it was the thing back then to sort of Grindhouse revival.
It was Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. They did that.
Mm,
They brought that back in like 2008 or so. And then all of a sudden all these movies were being made that
that
were
style, yeah.
that style because they could, because they had editing equipment that could make that happen. And now it just seems kind of like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess
and I very much, I'm sure if he were shooting this today, he wouldn't do it that way. But you know,
right. Well, I mean, and I think, yeah, once again it's a thing of its time,
sign of the times.
sign of the time. So maybe I would have liked it a lot better back then, but now I've just seen too much of it, that it kind of just annoys me.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like they were actually like way ahead of their time. Like I feel like they would get a lot more viewers now with where we're at in the world as far as like the trans community goes.
Mhm.
Um,
I think they would have changed the name though. Like
yes.
I feel like the slur of the word is not. is not okay today,
Well,
even in a title.
here's according to the research that I did, because Israel Luna is a gay man himself, and he
Uh-huh.
has a lot of transgendered friends. And what he said is when he went to them, none of them had a problem with the word. And he said it's kind of like, if an African American person uses the N word, it's kind of theirs to use so it's taking power away from somebody who's using it against them. On the other
Understandable.
hand, if it's somebody using it in a derogatory term, that's a whole different matter.
Well, it's also you're right. It's okay for them to say it to themselves, about themselves or whatever, but us to say it would be
How
wrong.
would
So it
the name of this movie being like ticked off inward with a knife?
right,
I would not
exactly.
say the N word.
I would not want to say it, and I don't want to say this word either. And so it, it's just about respect and everything, and respecting the trans community. And I just don't. To me personally, uh, I wouldn't have liked this title. Period.
Yeah,
Like when
and
it
I
comes.
get you. It's always problematic because the thing is, the trans community is just like every other community. They don't all think the same. They're not monolithic. They all have different opinions, and the fact is, some people you're going to piss off, some people you're not.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen.
But
Overall, I think they had like great acting though. Like there really wasn't like bad acting in this. And I loved the humor. Like I think I told y'all while we were watching
It's
it,
fun.
like I love all of my gay people, their sense of humor, all of my trans friends that I have, they just have like this humor, this like wittiness about their humor that is so funny.
There's a lot of witty banter and witty dialogue, and bitch, you do this, and it was just funny the way they can do it and be convincing about it.
Yeah, and let's fine, let's leave and go buy balloons. Balloons, yeah, for your
For a pity party.
pity party, you
yeah,
know.
that was a great line. Um, but I will say in the beginning of the movie, I was a little annoyed when they were all talking to each other because they were all just chatting all, like all overlapping each other, and I was just like, oh, it's just too many people like talking, which is probably what, probably improv, is like they were told to
Too
just.
many weenies in Weenie World, huh?
I don't know. I just after a while when they were chatting, I was just like, oh, okay, come on, can we stick to one person talking and so I can get a glimpse of who's saying what? I don't even know who's talking at this moment, that kind of thing. So that was the thing that annoyed me in the beginning, but it went away later, you know.
Yeah, didn't that didn't bother me because I kind of saw what they were doing with it. They wanted to get that atmosphere of what it's really like being in a dressing room, trying to get ready really fast. And like, it takes, people that have transitioned or people that just do the what do you call it? The drag queen like parties. Are we allowed to say that? Um it I don't think people understand the amount of like makeup and like art and craft that goes behind the hair, the makeup, all of that.
That's
And
why I could never do that. I am way too lazy.
I do,
You also hate makeup.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
So, and Jackie is a woman who loves makeup and like loves that kind of thing. Me personally, I don't care if you want to wear makeup or if you need to wear a lot of makeup because you want to look more like a presentable woman, even though you're just for the show, right? I thought it was done very well and tasteful. And
I don't know if they did their own makeup or what, but I just have to say, like, coming from a woman who tries to do her own makeup and I'm trying to keep up with like makeup trends, and
Oh,
things like
God.
that, like it, that's hard. It's
mm,
hard.
No. Well, let me give you a little background on the film. So
Hear
the
it.
movie, huh?
I said, let's hear it.
Yay. So the movie was written and directed by Israel Luna, who is a gay man, as I've mentioned, and his previous films include Is Anybody There? The Deadbeat Club, Fright Flick, Ouija Experiment 1 and 2, Dead Don't Die in Dallas, which is a movie I have on, I got at the dollar store. And then a movie called La Chanca del Diablo. It's about an evil pair of shoes that they get at the dollar store that has the demon soul inside of it.
I absolutely love when you end up finding the movies that you're in the dollar store. Do you know how many people I still have send me messages? They're like, "Look what I found in the dollar store." It's
Which
one of
one
the
did they find?
and typically it's like Cyborg Conquest. Uh,
Nice.
I don't have that one yet.
there's one more. The one that I don't like to mention, but you know what? Whatever. It is what it is, right? Dormant. I said it.
Dorm of the Dead. Oof.
I have that
I
one.
remember I remember when I used to talk to you, Jackie, and I'd be like, Dorm of the Dead, you'd be like, you start like literally, it would just make you want to upchuck
It
right then
was
and there.
funny when I bought it. I was like, Moody, should I like take a picture of this and then send it to Jackie to see what her
I
reaction's
think
gonna
you did too. I think you ended up doing that. I was like, yes, do it, please.
Yeah,
Because, we love you, Jackie, and
be? It's
we
okay. Don't worry about it.
I know.
Um, so the other thing this guy was involved with, apparently, they did sort of a soap opera, sort of like a Texas soap opera that was produced in Texas called Boobs, Boys, and High Heels, and he
Okay.
was involved in that. So he comes from kind of a background, this sort of performance, and where there's a lot of uh, dressing up and drag shows and all of that. So he knows a lot of people there. Now, originally, when this movie came out at the I forget which festival it came out at, but there was a controversy by GLAAD, and they reacted to the title of the film, and they were not happy about it, and they said the movie should be pulled because it was a slur. They didn't like the idea that people were mixing up the idea of drag people in drag, and trans people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it turned out, as the movie went on, a lot of people tended to change their mind, and as time has gone on, most people seem to like it for what it is, and it's become a cult classic. So that's kind of good. I'm glad to hear about that. And yeah, the majority of the actors are trans themselves or drag performers. The film had a $300,000 budget, so a decent sized budget, but not obviously a big budget. So that's probably why we didn't get to see a lot of really good blood effects and other stuff. And it was filmed in Arlington and Dallas, Texas.
nice.
And
Nice.
I can talk a little bit about the folks involved if you're interested.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so Emma Gushin was played by Erica Andrews. She's been in a couple of shorts, and including, gosh, I forget the name of it, but she was a modern drag performer. Unfortunately, they died in 2013.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's a shame. Uh, Rachel Slurs, who I thought was the funniest one of the bunch, it was played by William Belly, who's been on a bunch of TV shows, including The Shield, Boston Public, The District, My Name is Earl, Arrested Development, CSI New York, etc. And then movies including Defying Gravity, Sex, Drugs, and Guns, Blood Rain, The Third Reich, Blubberella, which we're gonna do on Indie Film Cafe because it's
sounds
fun.
like an indie film cafe
Oh
movie.
yeah, and then the other thing that William is famous for is being kicked off the RuPaul drag show.
That's
Disqualified.
not surprised. Oh, she was in A Star is Born as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Uh, Pinky Latrim, I think everybody loved Pinky, is played
Uh,
by Calexis Davenport, and this is their only credit, unfortunately. I don't know why, but I can tell you they were a high school cheerleader.
Okay.
okay.
Tipper Samore, I love that name, was played by Jenna Sky and was in The Dead Don't Die in Dallas and a few other shorts.
Oh,
Uh,
and she was Tipper in Dead Don't Die in Dallas,
yep,
so
yep,
she
yep,
was
yep,
played herself. And so was Crystal Summers.
yep.
Few people were in that.
And
And it was
speaking of
directed by,
which,
yeah, it was Israel
yeah,
Lunas.
it's all
Yeah.
Israel. Yeah, so this is part of his group. So yeah, Bubbles Clicquot is Crystal Summers. Um, so let's see, Dead Don't Die in Dallas. A Very Sordid Wedding. She was in that one. She was on the Detour TV series and was also in a bunch of shorts. And then let's see. Oh, Boner, everybody's favorite, was played by Tom Zembrod, who's in a bunch of shows called. There's one From the Dark, Rachel, and Revelation Road. Remember that movie, Revelation Road? We did. I did that one on one of my independent or solo reviews.
Oh, okay. I think I remember the name. I
Ouija
never did it.
3, Chronos, not the Guillermo del Toro one.
Oh,
Um,
he's worked with Abel Berry too. Did Strix.
yep,
Yeah.
The Harrowing, Howlers, Black Easter, and Bull Sharks 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, and he was Knucklebones in Knucklebones. I've heard of that
There you go.
movie. So,
So
yeah,
yeah,
Mr. Deepwood was in that.
there
Awesome.
was a professional cast of folks who pretty much knew what they were doing.
Hey, also we mentioned Todd Jenkins,
Todd
who
Jenkins,
Jackie had worked with on Bigfoot Wars, and he's been in other stuff too. He's around. He also, I think, if I'm correct, he also directed a movie called Cherokee Creek, which we're gonna do at some point. It's a Bigfoot movie filmed in Texas.
Texas,
nice,
yeah.
nice, nice.
He
Yeah,
lives in Texas.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Also,
there's a lot of Texas folks involved with this. So
yeah, and he's a good dude. I've talked to him a few times, and he's just a really nice guy. I'd love to work with him someday because he seems like a very professional, and he looked like he had a fun time in this movie. So,
looked like everybody had a fun time in this movie. You
I do
know,
have to say that, like, even though I'm grateful for like Todd's character as the doctor and then that nurse character, I was like, I mean, obviously this movie was like made for fun,
hmm
and it wasn't to be taken serious. But
right.
sometimes my mind has a hard time differentiating between the two. And I was like, really? Like a doctor and a nurse that are like dressed up in Halloween costumes, you know?
yeah, and that is a little bit problematic because I know the first time I saw this, you know, there are times when the movie's very serious, and especially with the first part where the girls are really in trouble and you start to really worry, and especially when the two of them get killed, and then it's juxtaposed with a lot of these very comic, sort of overly comic kind of things, and sometimes that didn't work quite as well. But it wasn't problematic throughout. It just was a little bit jarring.
Mm. No, I totally agree. I think there was times where I was laughing and then I was like, well, should I be laughing at this time? Like, why is this happen? Like it felt like they were trying to make something that was sort of a parody, but also it's,
Serious.
homage, like an homage. So it's like you can't really do both, in my opinion, but they did. And so it makes it a little bit of a weird, maybe culty type movie. I think this is like a cult type movie because of that.
Yeah, it's like the one guy said, it's Tarantino, part John Waters.
Okay.
It's like
So,
when a director has like a vision of something in their head, and in their head, it like they see it playing out, it's working, but then they can't make that come to reality when they're actually doing it.
yeah, I
Well,
kind of agree.
from what I read, or the original idea that Israel Luna wanted to do was he wanted to do a 70s style. What was the one? The Revenge, the big. I Spit on Your Grave. He wanted to do a kind of a redo of that. And then somebody suggested to him, well, why not do it with trannies? And he was like, well, that's an interesting idea. I don't think anybody's ever done that before, and I have a bunch of friends who happen to be do. Why not? And so he kind of went in that direction. So it kind of reminds me of Ray Dennis Steckler and Ratfink Boo Boo, where he originally wanted it to be kind of a serious film, and then about a third of the way in, he's like, let's just make this fun, and decided to make a comedy to go with it. And yeah, it's a little jarring, and it's kind of consistent throughout, though. You know, it'll sometimes be serious and it'll be funny. Although I think it was kind of funny throughout. But there were some other times where even Moody, we were mentioning, it almost wanders into torture porn.
Yeah.
Right. And in fact, it made me squirm a good amount because I was like, they did a really good job with like the sound effects and things. Like, you don't even need to see some of the blood come out. You can just like, like you feel it. So they did a really good job with that. And I think those scenes making it believable, you know, made it good. But then they would crack a joke, like and I'd just be like, oh, you just ruined it like a really good like horror moment, And maybe that's Israel Luna. Maybe he just can't, he can't just be serious.
Yeah, it's kind of like he grew up in the same era that we did with all the Schwarzenegger movies where he has to crack a doofy joke every 5 seconds, you
I,
know?
I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit different. I mean, it's not like one-liners. It's not like Freddy, Krueger, who's always making like one of the little one-liner jokes, but it's like throughout it, there's comedy and and jokes. And then I'm like, especially with our favorite, God, what's her name? Not Bubbles, but and not Rachel. The other one. I
Oh,
can't even
Pinky?
Pinky.
Yeah,
Pinky,
Pinky and Rachel Slur were both the ones who had the Winty
that's
banter.
and then see, that's the thing. See, they were the ones who had the more comedy until Bubbles woke up from her coma and all of a sudden she got
She
her
had
voice.
the list. That was
She
so
had the
adorable.
lisp, and it was like it was almost like she was mad that she wasn't getting any comedy, and everybody else was. So all of a sudden she had to have these like jokey, scenes, and I didn't like it. Like, I kind of liked her not having, like, being the straight one, and
Quote
maybe
unquote.
well, no pun intended, but I don't know. It was weird to me, you know. Um,
I think it was well done overall, though.
yeah.
You know, I kind of wish that there had been I don't know, a couple more actors, maybe giving us a couple more background scenes with some of the folks, because I think like we're missing a lot of information about these characters that I'd like to see a little bit more of.
Yeah.
Because they just focus so much on the revenge part. I would like to have seen a little bit more depth on some of these characters.
Also, did we need to see the flashback of how she got, like, did we need to see that that the phone call happened and that they were waiting outside and all this other stuff? Like, I got it. Like, once those people were down and then later we see that they helped them,
Yeah, that's
like,
part of that whole 70s
I
grindhouse
don't
thing
like
where
it.
they
I
do
don't
the
like it.
flashback stuff.
I don't like it.
Same thing with the training where like, we go through this whole thing where they find this Asian garden and he's going to
Oh,
teach them all this
that
stuff and then you don't actually see it because they
that
can't show it.
that was the Kill Bill scenes,
Yeah.
and stuff. That was we
We
were
don't
all
have the
like,
money for that, so we'll just
well,
pretend.
but we do have money for horses that are just carrying us over when we were just like, what in the world are we watching? Like, why is this happening? And that was part of the comedy, I think,
Yeah.
which made it go a little weird, like just feel like, what are we watching? Oh,
The weird part is a lot of people will look at movies like this and just be like, why? Like, why would someone even waste their money, their time to make something like this? But people don't realize how much fun it is to like actually make, like actually film, actually be an actor and get to like do these things, or a director or a producer or whatever. It's so
mm.
much fun.
Yeah,
like
yeah, absolutely.
like it
They definitely had fun making this film, you could tell.
Well, like just going back to the scene where they're on their way to the shrine or whatever, the temple that they were going to, and they're in the horse-drawn carriage. I mean, how many actors have wanted to film a scene where they're in a carriage, being pulled by horses? I mean, that's just fun, period, to be in. I mean,
I
it
was
might what?
I was in one in the movie that I've yet to see yet, Danzing, the Danzing movie.
Uh, you were in a horse-drawn carriage in that scene?
Yes. And how come we can't find that movie anywhere? I would like to see my parts in it.
I have no idea. I'm gonna look it up and see if they put it
Yeah,
on.
we got to find it. That'd be cool.
What was the name of that movie again?
It was
Death Rider?
Death Rider and something or other. Um, Crap. IMDb is annoying me. On this online, it won't let me see everything that people are have been on my app. I have to actually, I mean, I don't even know if it'll let me do it for everything. That's weird. IMDb is being annoying now. Um,
Sorry.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
not your fault.
it'll pass. I do like some of the little bantery dialogue that kind of that's just sort of popped out pretty much at every scene. You know, like just as an example, when Rachel Slur was getting the phone back from Pinky, and she's like, "Bitch, you got bronzer all over my phone." Just kind of like a throwaway line. It was just cute. The movie was full of cute little dialogue bits like that that I thought was fun. You know,
So it's called
Yeah,
Death Rider in the House of Vampires,
yeah.
and it is not available to watch anywhere streaming. Um, I wonder if it's on. I
did it ever
wonder.
get released?
Yeah, I did. I
I don't
filmed
know if
a
it's on
scene
TV.
rough.
Death Rider
Hmm.
in House of Vampires,
Hmm.
and I mean it's on. It's on the line. It's on eBay, but it's like 28 bucks, almost 30 bucks just to buy
It's got
the
its
DVD.
own website.
Yeah. Well, I wish that they would put it on streaming somewhere like Tubi. The other one he did was on Tubi, the one we watched.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, so that was we reviewed one of his movies before.
Danny
That was fun. What?
Danny Trejo's in it.
It's called, yeah, that one. There was Veronica. Was the one we
Oh,
reviewed.
Veronica, yeah.
When I was in too, Death Rider.
Yep.
But so yeah, so I thought the acting was really good in this. I liked the music in there. I thought all the production things were pretty good. Other than, like I said, they didn't seem to have a whole lot of moolah for some of the blood or effects that I would have like when the guy got his throat cut. There should have been a lot more blood,
They should have brought more ketchup.
more ketchup. Yeah,
Yeah. You know, they should have those one of those squirt all ketchup all out and Um, yeah, there should have been that, but I did like I mean when the sword went or whatever the knife or whatever it was like went through the guy's head, that was pretty cool
that
looking.
was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job with that.
They didn't pull any punches with regards to how the death scenes or even some of the fight scenes were pretty good.
hmm
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I enjoyed it. I mean, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie at all. But it wasn't a great movie, like this isn't, one of my favorites or anything. I mean, I'd probably buy it and own it, at some point because it is something that I think people would love to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me, even though it doesn't have anything to do with trans people, but it reminds me of Werewolves versus Strippers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that
I've seen
film.
that, yes.
It's kind of like a guilty pleasure in that it's fun, it's goofy, it's weird. It's not the best film ever, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't really take itself too seriously. It knows that it's just a bit of fun entertainment,
That
and it goes
also I
with it.
think was filmed in Texas, I want to say. I feel
Which
like
one?
that Zombies versus Strippers. Or wait,
No,
Werewolves
no,
versus Werewolves
Strippers,
Strippers.
Werewolves versus Strippers. I think was London.
Are you
Yeah.
sure? Okay. Probably was.
But
Uh,
yeah, it's just got that kind of fun sense to it, where it's like, we're gonna have fun. We know we're not doing Ingmar Bergman here. We're just gonna have a bit of fun, and that's it, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I was thinking of Zombie Strippers. That's the other one, with Jenna Jameson. Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that one.
yeah, it's pretty
It wasn't
silly.
quite as good.
It was silly, but it's the one that got more attention than Werewolves versus Strippers, which kind of
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
You know, lots of love.
Zombie drag queens. Nobody's done that.
Wait, so would the drag queens be zombies or the zombies
Yes.
be eating drag queens?
Kung Fu zombie drag queens.
Mm, just too much. That's too much, man. You gotta have one thing or the other. You
If you're
can't have
gonna do it, go for it, I say.
mm, but I this is what I liked about this movie is it wasn't too much as far as the story goes. You know what I mean? Like it was a very straight story.
Mhm.
Does somebody want to Jackie, do you want to tell people what the story is about?
I mean,
Trying to think of it.
Damsel in distress, right?
yeah, I mean, it was basically them being taken advantage of and like they're not gonna have it anymore, so they just killed everyone.
Well, I mean,
I mean, just like any cisgender woman who's been bothered by an abusive guy who won't just leave them the hell alone. I mean, that's all he had to do is just leave her alone, you
well,
know?
here's the thing, is he was getting revenge on her in the beginning because because she was a transsexual, and he didn't know it originally. Boner thought that she was a woman. So when
Boner.
he found out that she wasn't, he, came after her,
But
or
it
whatever,
wasn't like
and
she
punched
was
her.
trying to hide it either. She said that, he drugged her, and was going to do his thing with him because, that's what these date rape fuckers do. And then he finds out that, that she's not cisgendered. And now he's got this big complex about it. And that's the problem. It's all about him. It's got
Right.
nothing to do with her.
So then he sets this whole thing up where and it kind of sucks because like what would have happened had she not remember she wanted to go home. Bubbles wanted to go home because she
Yep.
wasn't feeling going
Poor
out with
Bubbles.
anybody. And those two girls unfortunately died, as a result of all of this stuff. But they ended up you know, taking her, or attacking them at the, I guess, warehouse or wherever
Mhm.
that place was. And they ended up, and thankfully she called up Pinky to try to get Pinky
Yeah,
to
they
hear that.
pinged.
Yeah. And Pinky pinged, where the girl where Bubbles was and went to try to get Bubbles back. And everything. And then that starts the whole thing and there's this like, are they gonna escape? Are they not gonna escape? What's gonna happen? And then they go back in to fight some more. And I thought they were dead because like here's the
Pinky
thing.
got stabbed in the
This
neck.
is what I didn't like. I didn't like that because she got stabbed in the neck. And then yet
Mhm.
when like the one girl Bubbles got into a coma when she woke up, it's not even like there was a scar or
Well, there
anything.
was a scar. There was a
And
scar on her neck. But it's
was
just
there? I
that,
didn't notice that.
yeah, yeah, it's just that you don't really get a sense of time. It feels like it didn't take very long. If they had said it had been like a couple of months, then you
Yeah.
could say, I mean, I guess it's assumed that, but they should have been a little bit more specific about that.
Yeah. But then, then they get out and then she has that lisp and then they basically plan the, revenge, on them or whatever. But I don't know. So I guess because there was that dream, like the nightmare she had where she saw the guy at the club. Do you think that was real? Like, do you think she actually saw him at the club at some point and she had because he did
It-
mention he went to the club,
That's
wasn't
how, yeah, that's how they met each other. I mean, that's how I perceived that dream because she was having a flashback.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
So that's how they met each other
She was
and
having
stuff.
a PTSD moment.
Okay. So, but later he said he went back to the club and saw that she was working again and stuff. So that's how he knew. And then I guess he followed her home or something. But then that's because now my biggest problem in my head is how did the two girls know that they were coming to the house? Like, how did all that get set up? You
It
know,
just set off screen that we didn't see.
that's stuff that's lazy. That's lazy because, like, You could just go, oh, you could just do it off screen and nobody will care, but I care because I want to know how the hell did they plan those two or those three guys to come to the house
Well,
and
clearly,
everything.
all of them were talking about it because she was supposed to leave her door unlocked, and she screwed that up.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah, so they had the plan that they were going to lure these guys. These guys were going to come in and they were going to, she's going to fight them off and then eventually,
I
uh,
kind of like the way that they did it though, because you were set up to think that you were going to get a standard shower scene, but it wasn't like that. It was her being, paranoid. You
Mhm.
know, I thought that
yep,
was kind of cool.
yep. You thought there was, they're going to open up the shower curtain and then like,
Do
you
that
know,
same thing that is always in those kind of movies where you have, a solid minute of nothing but the camera looking at someone's butt or their boobs for no real reason other than to, bring in the teenage boy crowd.
I don't know if this would bring in the normal teenage boy crowd, This is people who definitely, and this is definitely for a certain audience, This is for the LGBTQ transsexual and whatnot audience. And that's beautiful because they need to sort of be represented in film and horror films especially because I think a lot of people are afraid to have it like that because like nowadays they have to be like okay they have to be real transsexual. It can't be a guy pretending to be transsexual. You have to have, you know what I mean? Like that's what the world kind
I
of makes it out.
mean, I understand just because you need to have more representation. On the other hand, that's the whole point of being an actor is being somebody that you're not. So,
Right.
you
Well,
know,
you're not allowed to do that because I mean I brought up to things to people and certain actors are like, well, I'm not that specific type of person, and so you got to get that type of person. I'm like,
well,
no,
I,
it's
to me,
acting.
I don't think it's a problem. I think you should let actors be actors. Where I have a problem is I forget the name of the movie. It was a big, huge production number, and Scarlett Johansson was playing an Asian character.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. You should just get an Asian actress to play the Asian character. You don't need
Lucy
Scarlett
Liu.
Johansson there.
Lucy Liu. What's she doing?
Yeah,
Get
that
her.
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they do that because not because they're being racially insensitive on purpose. They just do it because Scarlett Johansson has a name and will attract, more money. But even so, you can find an Asian actress who can do it just as well or better.
Yeah.
Authentic. Let's have some authenticity.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
But
Um,
you didn't have to worry about that here. It was pretty authentic feeling in this movie.
I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah.
sure. I'm pretty sure they were all playing the right roles, and everything. I did like that, and I liked the guy who played Boner. I thought he was really like a fun villain, you know, like he had fun with it.
He was really good, I thought. And then I liked Bubbles. I mean, how could you not root for Bubbles the whole time? And I know Jackie liked her hair.
Yeah. She had nice hair.
And also, we like it that they weren't like Mary Sue's. They weren't these characters who could just kick ass and the whole time.
Mm-mm.
They were actually people who got their ass kicked at times, and stuff. Even to the point at the end, even like there were times where you weren't sure if they were even still gonna make it or not. Like, and that was good, because you were
Well,
hoping, you know.
it was interesting because towards the end, after they did the whole thing with their revenge, and then Pinky asks, she goes, "Oh, you know what the difference is between them and us? Nothing."
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the theme of the film, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. Um, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised about this movie because Paul had originally told me that there was a bad movie that he had picked and a good movie that he had picked for another day. And I was like, okay, which one is this? Right? And then we talked about it later. It's like, well, this isn't a bad movie. It's not, and I don't even, I think it was a pretty good movie, like it was better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, and that's the original feeling I had when I first watched this movie. I kind of expected it to be sort of much worse and just silly and ridiculous and over the top. And while it had some of that, it was still well done. It was well acted. All the production values were there pretty much. And like I said, there were several performances that I thought were really, really good. So, yeah, for 300K, I thought this was great. Great little
Probably
indie.
Probably my least favorite scene though was the part where they went on too long with the guy trying to understand her when she had the lisp and everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they were just like she's like, what, 2:30? What? Like
Understand.
yeah,
Understand? Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. What are you saying? And
Well, you remember
like
the movie's got to be 90 minutes.
well, it doesn't have to be 90 minutes. In fact, most of
Yeah,
these
I
movies
know.
shouldn't be 90 minutes. Should be less, because you
Yeah.
gotta get and you gotta be quick. And after a while you're kind of going, okay, this is not funny anymore. This has lost it lost its comedy. Let's continue going. So I don't know. That was my least favorite scene probably. But I like that actor, the guy who played Fergus or whatever. I
Mm.
think that was his name. Which
Oh,
what was
Fergie.
he? What was he?
I don't remember. I think he was one of the bartenders initially.
I thought he was just like maybe the owner of the club or something, because he
Yeah,
sounded
maybe
like a
he owned the club.
boss. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. He was an interesting character, and then he was the one training them, I guess, to be badass. You
So,
know,
Jackie, if you were in this film, would you have felt embarrassed about it after the end?
Old me? Yeah. I think I'm just now, and I know this is crazy. People are going to be like, what the heck is wrong with you? I think I'm just now becoming okay with and seeing just the fun of making like independent films and not having to take them so serious. And I think whenever I actually was acting, that I was so like dead set on trying to be in bigger movies. If the quality didn't come out good, I was just like, whatever, that's a crappy movie. But now looking back, like I miss those times. Like I had so much fun. I had so much fun. And that's a huge part of like my story and my life. So um no, I think I would have been proud. I think I would have been like, this is fun. If you like culty and like indie movies, like it's fun.
Somewhere I hear Donald Farmer smiling.
Yeah, he probably is.
oh Lord, he probably like Jackie, come backy.
I have
You know,
10 films for you to go in.
I did
um,
I did
you,
tell him that if his last wish was to have me in one of his movies again, that I would.
I think that's all of our last wish.
yeah, we gotta get you back out there. But we've talked about that. We've had projects we hope to get done with you and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things where uh this movie is fun and enjoyable, and I think at least when you watch it, you can see the people like enjoying themselves doing this. Like, okay, I get it, and I'm along for the ride, but if it were too serious or something, like they really leaned way more into the whole uh last house on the left, kind of
I
thing.
spit on your
I
grave.
spit
Yeah.
on your grave thing. I think I would have hated it. If it didn't have comedy in it, because with a title like that, if it didn't have comedy in it, it wouldn't have been
Yeah, I think the title pretty much sets you up for the fact that this is going to have some cheeky humor in it.
cheeky
Mm-hmm.
I should think anyway.
for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to, as I said. I thought from the title, I knew that there was going to be that, but I was like, uh-oh, is this going to go too, far? And we're going to, I even brought up that article about the LG, the GLAD stuff. I'm
I
like, I
know
don't want to,
you got worried.
I got worried because I was like, is GLAD going to be mad? You know,
They're glad.
I don't know. I think nowadays they look back at this differently.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I think that's the big thing of what we need to talk about, the
The
discussion.
world's a little different now than it was in 2010. It was a whole lot less accepting, and I'm not saying it's accepting now. Clearly, it's not. But I think some steps in the right direction have been made. Things are a little bit more normalized, but there's a lot more to go, a lot further for it to go. So, movies like this, if it changes people's minds, if they watch this and they think, oh, I don't, who cares about trans folk people or drag queens or any of those kind of people, and they look at it and think, oh, they're not really that different than any of us. Just they just have their own ways and stuff. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we had, well, go ahead, Jackie.
I just said I agree. I love that. Yeah.
We have trans people in our, in our group and stuff that we, and everything. Like Madeline. Madeline would probably love this movie too.
Probably has seen
And
it. Yeah,
I
I
would
would think.
I would imagine this seems like something
There's no
that's up our
sharks in
alley.
it, but still,
Now, ticked off tranny sharks,
there you go.
that would be an I don't know if that would work. That would be a completely different movie.
But
Um,
you go into Tubi and there's a whole subgenre of films with trans folks and with drag queens and a little of this, a little of that, which is great. I mean, I think that's fine. I have no
good. I
problem
know.
with
I
it.
think it's perfect.
Got to broaden your horizons, and even if you're not necessarily part of that community, if a movie is well written and fun and funny, or if it scares the heck out of you and it just happens to be about those folks, I say broaden your horizons and check it out and enjoy it.
Well,
Yeah.
and I agree. I just think that there are a lot of people who probably won't just because of the subject matter and stuff, and that sucks.
Yeah,
And
they're
I feel
missing
like
out then.
I think they should watch this movie. I would highly recommend anybody who hasn't seen it to just at least check it out. If you don't like it in the first whatever 20 minutes of the movie, you're not gonna like the rest of the movie. That's the first 20 minutes are exactly what you see is what you get. You're just gonna get more of that and stuff that I enjoyed it for that, aspect of it, you know.
At least it made sense.
Oh yeah,
Well, you've been in we've all seen movies where the movies didn't even make any sense. That's
We had,
usually our big thing on
we
Indie
could
Film
see
Cafe.
it, we could hear it. It made sense.
yeah, it had a storyline.
Well, the audio was really good. Yeah, like Paul says, we could see it. That's very good. Because a lot of times we can't even see some of the stuff at night. They lit it very well. I mean, this was a very professionally made indie film.
Hmm.
And if all of Israel Luna's movies are like this, then I think, he's a very good indie director.
Well, we're probably gonna do Dead Don't Die in Dallas at some point, so it's on my list.
Fright Flick was the one he did like right after this
Yeah.
and stuff, and that looks like a straight up slasher film, you know. So yeah, it looks
So yeah, he's probably well known on the Texas indie community down there. I'm surprised you didn't see him at what was it, Fright Fest down there?
was it Frightmare? Yeah. I probably did and didn't know who he was, like I don't even know what he looks like. So I on his IMDb he does not have a picture. So
There's
and
so
that
many people at those conventions that you're walking by that you've seen in movies and you just don't even know.
Yeah, you probably like, especially at Frightmare,
Mhm.
they're probably a huge Texas film community that you're walking by people who probably made 3 or 4, 10 movies and you don't know it because you just haven't followed those films and everything like that. And I had a group of people that I would go see all the time, or whatever, and some of those people aren't even there anymore you
Yeah.
know. So I mean, there's new people. There's gonna be new people every year, because people get into filmmaking every year,
I don't know how like people get into the indie world anymore. I mean, when it was during my time, I just like added all the directors on Facebook and then reached out to them. It's not really like that anymore. I mean, sure, I'm sure that there's some,
Well,
but
you
it's
No,
could
what it was.
You could do the Robert Best method and give $200 to every indie production so that you're listed as an associate producer.
Yeah.
You
There-
could. um, but what I was gonna say is back in Jackie's day, I mean, it's funny, but that's they still do that. It's a bit different now. What it is it's usually about seeing people that have already like that got their foot in the door. So like, there are people out there that will start working with certain people, and then I'll see them and I'll be like, "Oh, well, they've already worked a couple times, so obviously they're good enough to,
And
work with."
usually you see them with the same people because there's a level of trust that's been built there. They know they're going to actually show up and they know that they're going to, the kind of performance they're going to get. So they don't have to worry about auditioning people outside of their group unless they're looking for specific people.
Yeah.
Hmm. Exactly. But I don't know. I think that I think it's still the same with Facebook. Like people just say they add as many directors as they see, out there or whatever. And then I mean, I've got 5,000 friends right now. I've got my limit. So I have a huge list of people who have probably done a lot of stuff. I'm not friends with them yet, 'cause
Yeah.
it just hasn't happened. But I wish I did not do that in the beginning of like adding everybody. Now I'm like, kind of, and a lot of people do that. They'll start adding everybody, and then they'll get to their limit, and now they have to delete people, just to.
Yeah, I have a bunch as well. I don't really, I mean, I don't follow them in order to be in any of their movies because I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, you never know.
Well,
Be
you're
nice
not.
to collaborate with some of these folks, maybe.
Well, you're not really looking to act in movies, just like I'm not really looking to act in it. Like if John Johnson calls us to act in something,
Oh yeah.
we go to do it. If you
I mean,
know,
I would do it as long as it was a small part and it was someplace that I could drive to because I'm not
right,
flying anywhere.
Paul's not flying unless he's getting paid.
Just pop
Serious
a
money.
couple of Xanax and get on the flight. He'll be all right.
What did you take? You took gummies though, didn't you, Paul, the last time you were on a
Yeah.
plane?
Yeah.
So maybe some gummies would help you just relax and junk.
Or,
What
Put
were
me
you
to
saying?
sleep too.
or
Or what
we're
are you
talking
trying to
about
say?
these.
Nah, not the
Oh, not that,
Jonathan gummies.
not my gummies.
Not gonna spend the whole flight in the bathroom.
No, I do that already without those gummies, so I don't need them anymore. I'm done.
We are now, everyone that listens to this knows.
The gummy
Yep.
story.
Well, they don't know the gummy story unless we actually said that it told the gummy story. But yes, Jackie gave me some was it sugar-free gummies and said, "Hey, my mom sent me some for free sugar-free gummies, and I don't really want them right now. Would you like some?" And I was like, "Sure, I love gummies." And, so I took some
Then
and I was
Jonathan
like, they
proceeded
were
to gulp,
good.
gulp, gulp, gulp,
And
gulp,
I
gulp.
was good. I ate way too many of them. And Jackie was telling somebody, "Uh-oh, I might have given him too many." And yeah,
I knew what I was doing. I ordered them for the purpose that I ordered them for.
you ordered them to give to me. Yes, I get
Yeah,
it.
I
Yes.
ordered.
Very devious there, Miss Jackie. Very devious.
So, by the way, she doesn't tell me all of this stuff until I'm about to leave to go back to Virginia for Christmas, and she's like, "Jonathan, I've got to tell you something. I've been holding this in for so long." Then I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Those gummies that you ate, those were what made you shit so much." And I was like, "Thanks. Thanks." Like you thought it was the funniest thing ever. And this was during shutdown, during
COVID.
It
COVID.
was COVID.
So I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, after that, like, what could I do?
I get into trouble when I have too much time on my hands and I start pranking people.
And I'm not one, I don't prank. Like, I don't do that. I just,
So your brain would have never even thought like put two and two together.
Jackie has a little mischievous pixie living inside of her.
And that's the worst part is like Jackie already knows all of these things. So like I can't be like, hey, do you want some sugar-free gummies?
Yeah.
Like even before that, like she would already know and she'd be like, no, thank you, and everything. Or, well, I could have just said
She's
gummies.
playing chess when you're playing checkers.
Yeah.
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 So anyway, yeah. So
Well,
I
getting back to the film, I'm guessing this is about the time when we can start talking about rating the film, right?
yep, that's about the time.
So, Stinkometer, where we rate the movies on a 1 to 10 scale, by which the lower the number, the better the film, the higher the number, the stinkier. And by stinkier, I do mean problems, loads of problems. You can't see the movie, makes no sense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And then we take our three scores, we add them up, and then we find where on the ladder of stink this movie happens to fall for this season. So, there you go.
I know, yeah, and we add them all up at the end and calculate and decide which one's the stinkiest
A
movie
lot
of
of
this
math
season.
involved, serious math.
Yeah, well, I mean,
What
thankfully it's only plus and minus, kind of math, not like algebra type math or whatever.
I guess continuity monkey's got to sit there at the computer and work it all out.
No, I actually have to do all that because I have a whole steakometer scoreboard thing that I give to Paul at the end of the year to look at. And so
Who wants to go first?
I'll go
oh,
first.
okay, you'll go first, Jackie. All right.
I'm gonna give it a two. It
Two.
wasn't bad at all.
Nice.
It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. I think for what it was, they did well at it for the most part. Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
that
I
sounds
was
good.
gonna give it a three because even though I think like I agree with Jackie, but I'm also like it still had a little bit of stuff I wasn't a fan of, or whatever. Like, some of the stuff I think was too many of the jokes were just too much, and stuff like that. It just kind of annoyed me a little bit. But aside from that, like if that's my only problem with the movie, not technical or acting wise or anything. Acting was great, the direction was great, the writing was fantastic, all that. So I'm gonna say three.
That's good. I was a little concerned because it didn't occur to me until later that I wasn't really sure where Jackie stood on her feelings about trans folks and drag queens and all that. And I was like, oh, maybe let's hope she doesn't like hate them.
She loves
Uh,
going to drag shows.
I didn't know that about her.
I forgot to tell you that, didn't I?
You
She
did,
told me
didn't
that.
you?
She told me that though. But yeah, no,
But
she loves it.
so I'm glad I got one that you enjoyed. I think my score is going to be right in between you guys. I'm going to go with a 2.5 because I think it's a lot of fun. There are some things I would like to have seen, like I said, done better. I'd like to have seen more depth for some of the characters. I'd like to have seen a bit more production value out of some of the FX. But overall, I just think that it was a fun film. And like I said, if you can't sit there and root for Bubbles, I don't know who you can root for in a film. Come on.
But I have to say that I feel like that is like a huge trend in the indie movie world where they don't set up a lot of character development and
Mm.
you come into the movie wherever they introduce you. You don't really get a backstory.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because some of us out there like depth, you know?
I
Johnny
get
Depp.
really.
Oh, well, I was going with the whole, not being able to say the, saying it was the speech impediment thing.
Well, we Amber heard you.
No, Lord. All right.
And that's the other thing. I loved all the drag queen names on all of them. That was so much fun.
Our friend Jessa just got a drag queen name.
I
I
know.
love that, So I agree.
Eleva Bottom Carter was one of my favorites.
That was my favorite. I cracked up with that one, you know. They had some good ones. The only one I didn't like was Bubbles because I didn't get her I didn't get it. Like
I think that
Bubbles.
one was less of a joke. My problem was I kept thinking Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of did after you said that, but before I didn't, you know. Didn't even bother me because I'm
Yeah.
I'm used to Bubbles with Teen Ape, and Chris Seavers,
Oh, yeah.
Teen Ape and Bubbles. So that yeah, Bubbles is just a name for any kind of character like that. Um,
Bubbles. Gonna name my next dog Bubbles.
but
You've
then we
got
had like
Bubby.
Tipper some more, that was fun. Rachel Slur, I was like, because it took me a second, I was like, right? Like I was probably slower than most people on these things, like
No,
trying
I didn't get most of them. I
what?
didn't I didn't get a lot of them.
What was the other one? Was Pinky? Pinky something. That also named
Pinky Trim. Pinky Latrim.
no, okay, that
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
That one, again, that may not be necessarily a joke one. Emma Gushing.
Emma Gushin.
Yeah.
No,
Emma Gushing.
I thought it
Oh,
was Grushin. Immigration. It's like supposed to say
no,
like
no, no.
immigration.
Immigration.
Supposed to be immigration because when she was introduced on stage, they said she
Mexican.
moved to the country and she just learned how to lip sync in English in a
And
couple weeks or a month or something like that. So the immigration was actually kind of funny.
that was funny. Tipper some more was funny. Um,
It had a
it,
bend over,
it should have had
Yeah.
a bend over.
but
Rachel,
that's not a feminine like a feminine name. It would have been more for a someone that was transitioning into a male.
but Rachel Slur cracked me up because they said in the beginning she's not racist, but blah 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 blah, and so it was a racial slur. Huh, that's funny. Now, but like the other ones, yeah, I think a couple of them were just I don't know what they were, but they weren't funny that like that. And I come on, really a guy named Nacho, and it's not
And
supposed,
Boner.
like Boner and Chewy. Come
And
on.
Chewy.
Like you knew that this was a comedy from just the names and stuff. And it was a parody of uh, I Spit on Your Grave and all these things at the Last House on the Left and all these rape revenge movies. Um and I'm sad that the two characters died. But I feel like that was needed so that we could think like anybody in that group could die. You know,
Well, yeah. Plus, this is a community that experiences violence and death proportionally a whole lot more than standard folks do. So, yeah.
They
yeah.
were way before their time before this though, because this was 2010. So
Oh,
um all of those things were like not even brought to light in the public in 2010.
Not much anyway.
nope.
No. I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I knew about like drag shows, but like
I,
nobody was like transitioning or anything like that.
yeah, I
That
didn't really
I,
it wasn't really talked about.
yeah,
Yeah, it was going on, but it just wasn't out there.
yeah.
Right. But there's movies like Glen or Glenda where it is, Ed Wood did a whole documentary basically about, the transvestite community and stuff and everything like that. And it was wonderful that somebody back then was trying to help that community out, which people still, I mean, in today's date, it's still a problem that people don't fully understand it or whatever. But back then, they were trying to get people to understand about what's the difference between cross-dressing or people that like to wear, other people's clothes, and stuff or whatever, as
We,
opposed to somebody who's actually wants to transition, you know?
Mhm.
yeah, I
And
mean,
so,
we've seen it in movies without them like actually making it fully about like the trans community, but like I
Mhm.
mean, Doubtfire, Big Mama, um, Tyler Perry, Medea,
mhm.
I was thinking Boys Don't Cry. That was probably the one that really sort of brought it to light in a Hollywood kind of way because it was so well done and it pretty much made Hilary Swank into a name because of that film, because of
W-
her
I've seen it.
performance.
What about Sleepaway Camp? You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
that
that was
that
kind of incidental, but
I mean, but that at the end, you get the big reveal, and that's the first trans killer, and even though it wasn't played by a trans woman, they whatever it was played by Felissa Rose, who was I'm pretty darn sure is a real woman, like I don't think but it was still a wonderfully done movie because they weren't planning that, like that wasn't something that as you go in to see that back in the 80s, even today, Joe was telling Joe Turek was telling me that he was watching it with his wife who had never seen it and saw that ending and was like, "Oh my God, that was a shocking ending." Because nobody, if you don't know it's gonna happen, you're gonna be like, "Holy crap, there's a girl with a penis." Crying Game. That's a
Mind
movie
Game.
that
Yeah.
is not. A lot of people say that movie's banned because it treats, you know, sort of trans people in a bad way. You know,
Wait, it's Ventura.
Ace Ventura also kind of being banned today because they treat people like that.
I don't think Crying Game should be banned. I don't think it was treating trans people badly. It was showing them kind of how they are. I mean, that's not a problem,
Well,
really.
I don't know. There's somebody who made a whole video on movies that are actually banned right now that are not allowed to be seen
Nah,
because of that stuff.
that's a
And
shame. That's a
yeah,
good film.
yeah. Well, it's a movie that won a lot of awards from
I mean,
for that.
Crocodile Dundee is an example of where trans person is made fun of, and it's the butt of a joke. I can understand that scene.
Ace
People being
Ventura,
ups Yeah,
transport. Well, I guess that I guess they transitioned in order to get away from getting in trouble, or whatever, in that movie or whatever. But you know, I don't know. It's an interesting thing of like where we are as a society. And yeah, I agree. I agree grind games should not be banned, but have you seen it anywhere? Like it's nowhere to be found. You can't even find it streaming anywhere, which is a shame. Should be on
mm,
HBO Max, Um, but you know, I think people are just too sensitive these days about that kind of stuff and everything. That's kind of a bummer. Um,
yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
surprised
agree.
this movie is so easily available through Tubi, you know? Just is what
I'm
it is.
glad it is. I don't know if you can get it in physical medium or not, but it's worth looking.
Let me see if I can find out on
I'd add it
eBay.
in my collection.
I think what sucks about it is that, there's people like and even like including myself who like no judgment at all. Like I accept everybody like where they are in life, but I may not be updated on the constant changing terminology, uh, you know? And
Yep.
so I won't mean to say something that apparently is taken offensive now that wasn't offensive a few years ago, and I just am not updated.
I I think that's a little bit of a like that's really big like I think the problem and a lot of this has to do with the internet. The problem is that we as a society, when we go forward, we go like we try so hard to like do way too much at once, right? And all of a sudden, things that we say or do is not cool. And maybe it's definitely not, should not have been cool back then, but we don't know, and everything. All of
Yeah,
a
and it's
sudden,
weird too because again, first of all, you shouldn't have people advocating for other people. I think other people can advocate for themselves perfectly fine. Second
Mhm.
thing is, again, nobody is a monolith. You can't look at all of one group and say they all think alike. It's just not the
Yeah,
same. It's just like, there are plenty of small people who hate the term midget, but there are plenty of others who have no problem with it. And you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And there's different variations in between because we're all different. We don't all think alike.
that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite John Mulaney bits. Is he said that one time. he, he was going to say the word midget on the air, right? On a thing. And they were like, "Oh, you can't say that word." He goes, "Why not? I like that word. I want to say it." Right? And they're like, "Because that's a bad word. That's like saying the N word." He goes, "No, it's not." Right? He was like, "Do you know why it's not? Do you know how you know it's not? Because you can say midget like you just said midget, but you won't say the other word. So it's nothing like that word." And that's very true. There are some words like midget or I don't know. See, tranny's such a slur to me. Like it really is. I would never call somebody that. Like even jokingly, it's
Yeah.
just to me it's
I
just
hear
rude.
you.
It's rude. And so like when I first heard you say this title, I was just like, I don't like it. I'm still a little not a fan of saying the word, but I'll say it as opposed to if this was ticked off N-word with knives, I would I wouldn't say it, you know, not even just to just say the title. I would always call it ticked off N-words. But this,
Well, that's because the energy behind the N word goes back through years
Hundreds of years.
of
yeah,
labor and hardcore abuse, where that word, like so many people died at the hands of that word. So
yeah,
many people were beaten at the hands of that word.
There's a lot of negative baggage attached to
People
that.
denied their rights at the hands of that
mm,
word. And so that's just not a word that you play around with.
nope, 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 nope.
Yep. So there
Well,
you go.
I think that about wraps it up for this episode. That kind of fixes it
Now we're going to
all.
be accused of being all woke, probably.
I
That would be the funniest thing because I don't think any of us are woke at all. But
I was never asleep. Okay, these things are things that I already knew about freaking 25 years
well,
ago.
I just feel like, you know, it's one thing to say like, we need this kind of stuff, we need this kind of discussion, right? It's another thing to like just bombard us with it, and try to say we need that for everything. No, we don't need this discussion every day,
That's the
every
Hollywood
movie.
problem. We
That's what I'm saying.
can't do a movie without shoving this message. Okay, make a movie about it, make it a good movie, and then move on, do something else.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, you know, do a nice movie about how these are some issues that really need to be discussed.
Because
Then
whatever
make
message it is, if your message is cookies are delicious and you make 75 movies shoving that message down our throats, nobody's going to agree with that after a while.
Yeah,
hmm.
I agree.
Well, except
Well, I
maybe.
agree with what you said. No, but yeah, I anyway, this I'm glad this got made. I'm glad it got a pretty good low score. So Israel Luna, thank you so much for making
Well
something
done.
that was
Thank
fun and
you.
enjoyable.
And Jackie, thanks again for coming on the show. It had been a minute, and we're always happy to have you on.
Well, thanks
Yes.
for having me. I enjoy spending time with you guys.
See,
Yay.
we, unlike a lot of our other guests, a lot of times we just do this at 9 o'clock at night. So we just already review the movies and then already watch the movies, then come and review it. This time we actually got to watch it with Jackie. So it was almost,
And I didn't give you a movie with a butt and or fart in it.
well,
Oh,
farts,
there
I
were
think,
parts in it.
There were tacos.
taco farts, you know,
That
it's
was
a
funny.
poo poo platter.
I'm the poo poo platter.
Yes. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll be back. Uh, I don't know. I think it's either one of Paul's or one of mine. I don't know.
We'll
Probably
figure it
one of
out.
Paul's. But you'll be back. No, it is one of Paul's is next. So oh, and we forgot to mention that in a few days from when this is released, it'll be Jackie's birthday. So
Hey,
happy early birthday.
finally turning 21.
Yes.
I know.
You're finally old enough to drink, aren't you?
Oh,
You
no,
know.
I'm gonna turn up. Slammered, hammered, schmammered.
All right.
I'd
Well,
love to see drunk Jackie
oh
on
God.
on.
No. No. I've seen drunk Jackie. We're fine.
I want to see her on
Fine.
the show talking about a movie.
Oh
Not good.
God. She won't. She'll go and make food and then go and fall on the floor and then she'll eat it off the floor. Yes. This is Jackie, don't look at me like you
Yeah, I
don't
heard about
know.
that floor macaroni and cheese.
It wasn't macaroni and cheese. What was it? It was noodles.
Oh,
Noodles.
it was SpaghettiOs.
SpaghettiOs.
I didn't eat the noodles, they were dry noodles, okay? I threw those everywhere and then started complaining about who threw the fucking noodles.
No, you woke up from whatever and you woke up and you go, fucking noodles.
Yeah, those noodles were still in that apartment a year later when I was cleaning it up.
Oh God, that's awful.
There was
Yeah.
baseboards, yeah.
Well, that wasn't as bad as what I did. And I wasn't even drunk because I don't drink. But I went to reach for a can of soda. We had it on the top of the fridge. So I went to grab them and all of them fell out of the box and stuff and went sprayed everywhere, and yeah, Jackie was seeing that all
Well
everywhere
done.
too still. So,
Just left.
yeah, it was never a dull moment in Casa La Jackie and Jonathan's. It was always something going on. Um Paul would have Paul would like to visit, but I don't think he'd like to live there.
No.
Sorry, I like my peace and quiet.
Oh
Oh,
God, no. Then
no,
you definitely would not have liked to live there.
I live there. Yeah.
The only time we had peace and quiet was when Jackie had to leave to go somewhere for a while and it was just me and the dogs.
Hey.
No, because whenever we're together, or if I left, but
All,
I never
all
really went
talking
anywhere.
movies and podcast and yeah.
Yeah, there's a million things going
I
on.
would show up and hang out and cook. I think that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. I cooked for us a lot.
Yeah, so she'd be happy to have a break, you know. Or if we didn't cook, we went and we got food.
Yep.
We would go
Ramen.
to Well, yeah, we would go get ramen or we would go get what
Taco
is
Bell.
it? Taco Bell or we get what's that cheesecake factory stuff. I miss the cheesecake factory. We don't have any around here. All
Uh,
right,
we got one in Newport News, I think.
are you sure? I
Yeah.
looked it up and I didn't see it anywhere.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, is that new?
No, it's been there.
All right, I'm gonna have to look
I
that
think
up
it's at
then.
the Tech Center in Newport News.
Well, then I might have to go because I miss my cheesecake factory. Then Jackie introduced me to that. You know.
Yeah, I
All
think
right,
it's near the PF Chang's.
that sounds about right. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. We'll be back next week with the brand new episode from Paul. Until then, everybody, hope you guys enjoy this. Bye.
Eh.